The Muslim communist, who is likely to be the next mayor of New York, has racked up a lot of big endorsements in his race to destroy America's greatest city. But a new report from the New York Post suggests that he has earned the most important one yet, previously undisclosed, and that would be from the government of China. I'm Michael Knowles. It's The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. So much to get to. Amazing stuff. Not the least of which is that a TikToker took off her nose ring and her life changed. We'll get to all of that first, though. I want to tell you about Ave Maria Mutual Funds. Go to avemariafunds.com/Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Folks, I really believe that you should not have to compromise your beliefs when it comes to investing. Why would you put your money into companies that oppose the things that you deeply care for? That is one of the many reasons that I like Ave Maria Mutual Funds and why I'm proud to serve on their board. Ave Maria Mutual Funds have been around since 2001, founded by George Schwartz. Today, they manage nearly $4 billion in assets with more than 100,000 shareholders. What sets them apart is simple. They refuse to invest in companies tied to abortion, pornography, embryonic stem cell research, and Planned Parenthood. Simple as that. Whether you're saving for retirement, your kids' education, you just want to watch your wealth grow responsibly, Ave Maria Mutual Funds offers a range of options so that you do not have to compromise. Learn more at avemariafunds.com/Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. That is avemariafunds.com/Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. All mutual funds are subject to market risk, including possible loss of principal. Request a prospectus, which includes investment objectives, risks, fees, charges, and expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. The prospectus can be obtained by calling 1-866-283-6274 or viewed at avemariafunds.com. Ave Maria Mutual Funds are distributed by Ultimus Fund Distributors, LLC. Big story, splashy, New York Post. TikTok has been promoting Zohran Mamdani. TikTok, owned by China, propaganda vehicle into the United States, is pushing an anti-American Muslim communist who fights for queer liberation, who's going to destroy New York City. I have no doubt that that is all true. Okay? And there are problems with TikTok. TikTok is a vehicle for foreign propaganda into the United States. That's true. That's all true. But one of the reasons that conservatives haven't totally jumped on board with beating up TikTok is because the other guys, the domestic players, are also propagandists pushing left-wing candidates and ideas against our interests. That was a problem. If you wanted to get conservatives to rally against TikTok, and many of them did, but many, especially younger conservatives, did not. If you really wanted them to rally against TikTok, then you need to give us a better alternative than Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube and all these places that, though they've course corrected a little bit since the election, have been very bad for conservatives. If there were a great domestic alternative, I guess X is providing that, but if there were a really, really big domestic alternatives, then we could say, all right, get rid of the Chinese propaganda TikTok. We don't need that. But the direct competitor to TikTok is Instagram Reels, and Instagram and Facebook historically have been very bad to conservatives. So if you're an American conservative, you're looking at that, you say, look, man, I don't like the Chinese Communist Party, but if we boot them out of the country, if we really bring the hammer down on them, all we're doing is empowering our domestic opponents who increasingly look like domestic enemies because they encourage our murder and they celebrate our murder. And at the very least, they prosecute our politicians and they try to kick them off the ballot and they try to throw pro-life grannies in jail. And it's just, I'm not doing that. Okay, I recognize the geopolitical problem of this. You don't want your greatest geopolitical adversary, China, to have a backdoor into subverting American politics. I have no doubt that's exactly what they're doing. But you know why else Zohran is leading in the polls? Because of mass migration. That's not China's fault. That's not TikTok's fault. The Democrats did that, and the squish Republicans let that happen. And I'm not just talking about illegal immigration, just mass migration generally. He plays well in New York with a lot of the migrant communities. You know why else Zohran is leading in New York? Because of our terrible education system. that the libs took over decades ago and that they have used to pump a bunch of anti-American ideas into our heads. Not all that different from what TikTok's doing. You know why else Zoran is leading right now? Because of a political order run by the left for decades that has turned people against their own country and encouraged them to tear down statues of the founders and builders of our country, like George Washington. That wasn't just China. That wasn't just TikTok, okay? So, yeah, I don't want China doing that, but please spare me the selective outrage. I'll make you a deal. I would be happy to boot, not even just have a deal with TikTok, and in a way that protects American interests a little bit more. I'd boot the whole thing out of the country. If you guys would also agree, you guys are very intelligent and handsome and understand what's going on. I'm talking about the left. Yeah, great. Okay, now you're upset because Mamdani's creating problems, or like the kind of centrist Dem establishment left. Yeah, all right, let's boot TikTok out. If you will also stop the mass migration, if you will also fire all the terrible teachers and take the power away from the Communist Teachers Union, and if you will also stop your political leaders from turning people against their own country, if you'll do all that, all the other big long-term problems that have contributed to the Muslim socialist who's about to take over America's most important city, then we should also get rid of TikTok too. And it'll be a big handout to Facebook, but that's fine, whatever. If you're not going to fix all those problems, sorry, I just can't believe that you're serious. All of a sudden recognizing the threat from China now. We got identical threats from our opponents here in the United States. And if they're not going to do anything about it, all right, whatever, so be it. Speaking of foreigners, here's a clip that's been going viral right now of a couple of illegal aliens going on the Caleb Hammer Show. It's a popular podcast to talk about debt. Here's just a little taste of what they racked up.
Well,
you guys also have debt. How much debt you guys have? Oh,
yeah.
Over $100,000 of debt. That's not even the house. Literally, wow, $130,000 of debt that is not the house.
So they rack up a huge amount of debt. This thing goes way, way longer. They talk about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. By the way, they have decent jobs, but they're gaming the system. They're illegal aliens, so you got to wonder how, if they're paying taxes, maybe not so much. No intention to pay back any of this debt. And that's not the worst part. Everyone's really offended at that part. Everyone's really offended. How are these getting all these handouts and probably not paying taxes and ragging up all this? How are we tolerant? That's not the worst part. You know what the worst part is? I'll tell you in 1 second. First, though, I want to tell you about Birch Gold. Text my name, Knowles, KNWLAS, to the number 989898. Buy gold, get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they will send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. You might have heard that gold just hit $4,000 an ounce. You might have heard that because I was dancing for joy and singing in my house. As you know, I'm a little bit of a gold bug. Gold is up over 50% since the beginning of this year. Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they will send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. If you are current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, tens of thousands of happy customers, many of whom listen to this show, I encourage you to diversify your savings into gold. Text my name, Knowles, KNWLAS, to the number 989898 for a free info kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Text my name, KNWLAS, to 989898. Do it today. This is a great transition, talking about wealth and money. And anyway, everyone's saying the worst part of that clip is they racking up their debt and taking their handouts and this, that, and the other thing. The worst part to me is that they felt confident to go on the show. That, to me, is the most dispiriting part of the whole thing. They know that our immigration enforcement, historically, in the last several decades, has been such a joke. They know that half of the country's political order wants them to break the law, actively wants to stop law enforcement from arresting them, that they can just go on a show, brag about how they broke our laws, brag about how they're here, show their faces, brag about all of the problems they're creating for our country, and they know that very likely they will face no consequences for it. And now you could say, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, look, they're obviously not the most rational people. They're racking up all this debt and they don't have enough money to pay for it. And maybe they're not totally rational. Maybe they're super rational because they realize they're never going to be held to account for this. But put them aside for a second. How many times in the last 15 years have you seen illegal aliens get up on stage at some rally to protect the dreamer, future American, undocumented Americans? How many times people get up there, they say, I'm undocumented. They're confessing to a crime and they're inviting law enforcement to come arrest them, and they know. They're mocking you. They're mocking all of us. They're saying, you're not going to do it. You're not going to arrest me. If you do, it'll get gummed up in the courts and the Democrats are going to try to have my back. And it's so deeply offensive, which is why every time this happens now, from now until the end of this term, which is all we're guaranteed, frankly, from now until the midterms, which could shift the political power in the country, though I don't think it will right now, the administration has to not just deport a lot of people, and they've done a lot better on the deportations than they're getting credit for, because a ton of the deportees are self-deporting, and that's showing up in labor statistics, that's showing up in studies from immigration hawks, from the Center for Immigration Studies. So the administration is doing a good job, and a much better job than their critics are admitting from the right on deportations. But the problem is they have to deport the high-profile people because they have to establish deterrence. They need to make clear that if you show your face in public and you have the temerity to admit that you're here illegally and to demand a bunch of stuff, you're going to be first of the line to get out of the country. You can't treat these people the same way that you're treating all the other. Yes, I know they're prioritizing the face-tattooed gangsters and the terrorists and all that. Yeah, you got to prioritize these people because it's very psychically damaging to see illegal aliens mock your country, mock your whole system, and get away with it. Got it. They need to. I'm sure Tom Homan's already taken a look at that video. Everyone saw it if they were on social media, but they got to go. They got to leave. Okay. Speaking of America's interactions with foreigners, an unbelievable scene that it seems unrelated to something we were just talking about. I think it's totally related. Do you remember I said on the show, was it yesterday, the day before, I said, quoting Cardinal Manning, I said, there is a time to come that will reverse the confident judgments of men. That many of our big political obstacles that we seem to be struggling with are actually just failures of political imagination. We're just so dispirited. We just feel like nothing can change. This is it. This is the way it's always going to be. And I said, guys, things can change very quickly. Civil wars have started for less than some of the things we've been looking at. We obviously want to avoid that. We want a healthy restoration of our political order. I'm going to give you a scenario. You tell me if you think this seems like it would have been likely or unlikely, or impossible even, a year or two ago. Here's a scenario. The King of England, who is the leader of the Church of England, which broke away from the Catholic Church 500 years ago, goes and prays in the most famous chapel of the Vatican, goes to the Pope to go pray with the Pope. And you might say, that would have been impossible. And the Pope that he's praying with is an American monarch. The King of England, head of the Anglican Church, goes to Rome to pray with the Pope, who is an American monarch. We'll get to that in 1 second. First, I want to tell you about ExpressVPN. Go to expressvpn.com/Knowles. In this country, privacy has become a luxury. And that's a shame because people need to protect their privacy from bad actors, okay? The government operates behind classified documents while the NSA buys your data from brokers tracking your every move online. There is a way to stop that transaction and reclaim your privacy. ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that routes all of your online activity through secure encrypted servers, which means data brokers cannot see what you are doing online, and neither can their customers, such as government agencies and big tech companies. What makes ExpressVPN stand out is their strict zero logs policy. They do not track or store any of your online activity, period. In fact, just the last year alone, they received over 400,000 data requests from tech companies and government agencies, and they did not share any customer information because they don't have that information to share. I've used ExpressVPN for years at this point, probably like 8 years or something, and I'm a Luddite. Even I can use it. Push one button, boom, cell phone, tablet, computer, works seamlessly across all of your devices. Connect up to 14 devices at once. Right now, go to expressvpn.com. You can get an extra 4 months free with my link, expressvpn.com/Knowles. 4 extra months for free, expressvpn.com/Knowles. Great news on a lot of fronts. With apologies to my Anglican friends out there. I think there are still some Anglicans. No, I can name a couple Anglicans at least. I know it's tough. It's tough these days with the bishopresses and all the rest of it. The fact that King Charles would do this very excellent thing and go to the Pope, go to the Sistine Chapel, pray with the Pope, is really good. And I think any reasonable person would have to conclude this is a tacit acknowledgement that Anglicanism has not totally worked out. And by the way, the Anglican ecclesiology, I'm not going to pretend to be some expert on it, but it is at least a little more open in principle to being in communion with Rome, despite some of the political fights of the 16th century, despite certain kings of England maybe kind of wanting to chop their wives' heads off. And look, it's water under the bridge. He did it. He went to Rome. Because Anglicanism is not a vital force. And as a religious spirit continues to reawaken, and we're seeing this in just about every social scientific data point we can find, I don't think it's going to be Anglicanism exactly that gets the big boost. I have great respect for my Anglican friends. It's twice the liturgy, half the guilt a lot of the time, but this is a big sign. And on top of that, is this the first time ever that a British monarch has met with an American monarch? Because Pope Leo is an American, so he's an American citizen, but he's the monarch of the Holy See. He's an actual monarch of a country and an American citizen. It's kind of weird. I don't know how it works out with taxes. There have been a few of these other occasions where like a guy who had American citizenship or who was born here becomes the king of some, far-flung Pacific island or something. But this is weird. This might be the first time. Maybe it's not the first time, but it's pretty notable historically. Which means that for the broader point, maybe you're not Anglican, maybe you're not Catholic, maybe you're not all that religious. The fact that this could happen, a thing that 5 or 10 years ago would have been thought completely impossible for a whole host of reasons, reminds you we can change things. Things do change, actually. Things change very rapidly in politics. And this is at the highest level because the Holy Spirit is on the move in the world. And at a lower level because human beings have the free will to cooperate with God's grace and to do a whole lot of things. And we actually can change things because polities are just you and me, kid. That's what countries are. Yes, there's constitutions and creeds and there are mountains and oceans, and all, but you know what countries really come down to? They come down to people. They come down to you and me and everybody else. And when we want to do stuff, we can if we have the vision and the courage to do so. Okay, turning away from peace and love, I want to get to what the Democrats are up to. Because the Democrats just went to Los Angeles. Democrat legislators went to Los Angeles. Were there with a former Democrat legislator, Karen Bass, another communist, like an actual card-carrying communist some decades ago, who's now the mayor of Los Angeles, to announce a program to track ICE.
I shared this with the mayor. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, the Oversight Committee will be launching on their website a master ICE tracker, where we're going to be essentially tracking every single instance that we can verify that the community will be able to send us information on.
They're going to put the ICE Master Tracker on their website. Let me ask you something. What you just heard there from the Democrats. Let me ask you, what's that for? What's that for? Because they said it in a really boring way, and we're going to have a master tracker on our website that people can go to look when ICE is coming. What does that mean? What's that for? There are only 2 things that can be for. I'm going to give the most charitable view. The most charitable view, ignoring the reality of Democrats in politics right now, just being as gracious as I can be, is that Democrat federal officials working with local officials are undermining law enforcement, undermining cops who are enforcing the most basic of American laws, namely who can come in, namely the border, which literally delineates the country. You have Democrats who are so lawless, who are so tyrannical, or would be tyrannical if the people would give them the power that they demanded, who are so irrational that they would undermine law enforcement, kicking out murderers and gangsters and terrorists. That's the best thing I can say about them. Because you know the more likely reason that they're putting this website up is to encourage violence against ICE. Because there's been a lot of violence against ICE. That's why ICE has to wear the masks now. And then Democrats like Gavin Newsom in California try to pass laws that force the ICE members to take their masks down. It's the one mask that Gavin Newsom doesn't like. Gavin Newsom made us put masks on 2-year-old babies for years. Oh, we were all about masks when we had to hide from the Wu flu, contrary to scientific data. But now that federal law enforcement are trying to protect themselves and their families from being doxxed and harassed and murdered, now they got to take the masks off. And now there's going to be a website put up not by Antifa, not by some fringe left-wing group, by the Democrats in Congress, federal legislators, the lawmakers who are undermining federal law enforcement and threatening them. And the contextual evidence for that is they have been minimizing and excusing and in some cases celebrating the murder of a center-right civilian for over a month now. And that's just one example. There have been many, many more examples. I'm actually going to be at the Senate in a few days. I'm going to go down for a committee hearing to testify about left-wing political violence. So stay tuned for that. I'm very, very grateful to Senator Schmidt and the Republicans in the U.S. Senate for taking this issue seriously. First, though, speaking of Democrat meltdowns, I want to get to MSNBC Mika Brzezinski because the excuses that they're making for their political unpopularity are getting so delicious. Take a listen to this take on Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat running in Virginia, who is struggling a little bit politically right now because she has endorsed a man who called for his Republican opponent to be murdered and for his children to be murdered. This woman, she'll still probably get it, but she hit a couple rocks. Here is MSNBC's explanation as to why.
It really is incredible when you have Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, her background, all the different jobs that she has held in the military, and also like Alyssa Slotkin. Yeah. I mean, my God, these women are incredible. And to them, I would say, fight, because we need them. Yeah. We need them leading.
And Mikey is like, she's doing a ton of interview. You know, when I talked to that, when I was in the car, you know, it was this car, she had gone from interview to interview to talk to, but you know, you still see the anxiety.
Yeah, Cheryl did have a few missteps in her campaign, but she still has, as you say, about a 5 or 6 point lead per polling. Spanberger's lead in Virginia, a little bigger than that. But, you know, both still competitive races here heading into the last couple of weeks. But to Mika, to Molly's point, I mean, this is something that a lot of Democrats are grappling with right now. Is they've nominated women 2 of the last 3 elections for the presidency, lost both. There are some who say, well, we can't do that again. The stakes are too high. But, of course, that does fall into the same misogynistic trap.
Other countries have no problem electing women.
Other countries have no problem electing women. Other countries, those good countries, have no problem electing women. This country, Abigail Spanberger is struggling because people don't want to elect a woman. My brother, my sister Mika, Abigail Spanberger is running against a woman. Does Mika Brzezinski not know that? The race in Virginia is between 2 women for governor. It's Winsome Sears on the Republican side and Abigail Spanberger on the Democrat side. Last I checked, Winsome Sears is a lady. This reminds me, there was a time, this was years ago at this point, when I think it was David Webb. He was hosting a radio show, and he brought on this lady, a black lady, to come on the show. She was a liberal Democrat. So she goes on and says, they're getting into some heated argument. She's losing the argument. She goes, well, you're only saying that because of your white privilege. Now, this was a radio show. And Webb starts laughing. He's laughing because the lady didn't know that David Webb is a black guy. And so she's completely losing the argument. She got nothing. She goes, well, you're just a dirty honky. I hate you, Whitey. Death to Whitey. Your white privilege. And then Webb has to laugh. He's like, man, you don't even know I'm black. So the only reason Abigail Spanberger is having a tough time, the only reason these Democrats are having a tough time is because people don't like women. No, they're voting for the other woman. Maybe. We'll see. Look, I hope it works out in Virginia. I'm not totally holding my breath. Okay, one quick thing that I have to get to before we get to the mailbag. Great news. A TikToker took off her nose ring.
Okay, I posted a video about men not liking me. And the comment section is just absolutely frying me at the moment. But the amount of people that brought up my nose ring is wild. And then someone said I look like a Democrat because of the nose ring. So I'm taking it out. I just want to see, because I don't take this thing out. I just want to see. Oh my god, my light is so bright. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to put this back in. And oh my god. Oh, I got it. Oh, I like it. God. Sorry. Bad reaction. I like the no nose ring. Oh my god, I never thought I'd say that. I can itch my nose. I still have that though. Ha.
Yes! You can do it! I'm so... In this line of work, you don't always feel like you're making a difference. You don't always know if your message is getting out there, but I released my very profound investigative report on the link between girls wearing the bull nose ring. I'm not even talking about the little side one, which can be kind of cute sometimes. I'm talking about the bull one right in the middle, that and being totally crazy. I released my very deep report. You can catch it on YouTube. What was that, 2 weeks ago or something? And already it's bearing fruit. And it's true. She looks better without the nose ring. She looks better. She feels better. There is, if we want to really get deep into it, there actually is a connection between your physical state and your emotional and psychological and spiritual state. There actually is, because we're incarnate creatures. Because we're like the animals in that we're bodies, but we're like the angels in that we're sensitive souls. And anyway, there is actually a great deal of depth that we can get to. But look at that. And you can change. People say, I'm too far gone. We were talking about this the other day with the boomers and the divorce. Sometimes they say, I'm too far gone. I can't. No. It's never too late. It's never too late. You can have 5 face tattoos, 3 bull nose rings. You could have been doing OnlyFans for 150 years. That'd probably be pretty rough by the end of that career. You could have all these problems. It's never too late. Now that can really screw you up. It's going to be hard to dig out of all that stuff, but it's never too late. You can do it. You can even just take that nose ring out. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, we got you covered. The hit Halloween thriller Nefarious is now streaming on DailyWire Plus, or you can check out the 3rd and final episode of USS Cole, the powerful conclusion to our exclusive series. If you're not a DailyWire Plus member yet, now is your chance to join with the deal of the decade. Become a member for as little as $7 a month. Be part of everything coming next. That includes our 7-part series, The Pendragon Cycle, premiering January 22nd, 2026, with early access on Christmas Day for all access members. Join now at dailywire.com. My favorite comment yesterday is from the Drummers Workshop, Norm's Music, says the left went from no electoral college to no branches of government. That's really amazing, isn't it? That was a fast one they pulled. We need to get rid of the electoral college. And then, why? Well, because we win the popular vote. Oh, okay. Then what happens? They lose the popular vote and the electoral college and the presidency and the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court. They say, all right, we need revolution in the street. I know. That's how it works. Because the election is only legitimate if they win. That's what they mean by our democracy. Okay. Finally, we've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. Our mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Knowles, to make the switch today. Let's take it away.
Hey, Michael, this isn't a question so much as just thoughts about what you were talking about with the boomers. You know, I was thinking, how did they come to be so strange and off-kilter? And I wonder if it doesn't have to do with the Great Depression and several wars back-to-back, and their fathers coming back broken and messed up and distant. Not trying to run interference for them, but I just wonder, because we know all these statistics about kids doing better with single fathers than single mothers. I just wonder if the boomer generation is all screwed up because their dads were all screwed up. Anyway, take care. Thanks for the show. God bless.
It's a great point. Yes, of course. Yeah, remember, I'm a conservative. I'm not one of these arch libertarian types who thinks we're all individuals and Pache Kamala Harris, we just fell out of a coconut tree or something like that. I know, I think that's true. That's why I'm not so hard on the boomers. I was a little tough on them the other day because I said the reason that you're seeing problems and social turns among boomers and Gen Z and millennials. The Gen Z and millennials are actually, they're the ones leading church attendance now. The boomers still not really going back to church. I said it's the same reason. It's because the boomers got divorced. And because they got divorced and continue to get divorced at the highest rates of any generation ever in recorded history. Because of that, they believe that they can't overcome their sin. They just feel alienated from the church because marriage is an image of Christ and his church. And the Zoomers and the millennials have had to deal with the fallout from all those divorces. And so they recognize that there's some disruption to the social order and this is not how things are really supposed to be. And that's, I think, is pushing them. I understand that's all psychobabble, but that's why I'll grant your psychobabble about the boomers. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe their dad didn't hug them enough or something. I mean it, maybe they did, I don't know. That's tough. That's why, we're all humans, man. We have human solidarity. We all come from the same parents, Adam and Eve. So I don't beat up really on one generation or the other. But different generations screw things up differently in this fallen world. And it means that you have to, you gotta figure it out. You gotta improve. You don't need to be afraid to improve. Okay, next one.
Hey Michael, big fan of the show. I've been listening to you for about 3 years now while stationed overseas in Japan, so every time I get to listen to you in the morning, it's probably evening wherever you're at. I had 2 questions. My first question was, do you believe in the rapture? And if not, why not? My second question was, what is the creme de la creme? 3 years to this day, I still don't know what that is or what it means or how it came about. So if you could shed some light into that, I would appreciate it. Thanks for what you do.
Happily, thank you for your service. First of all, I'm honored that you've made it through this show for years. And the crème de la crème, that's a very pretentious way of saying all of you, the best, the very best. Other people, who they listen to other shows, they read other books, they're okay. They're kind of the hoi polloi, but you're the crème de la crème. As to your question on the rapture, I believe in the Antichrist. I think there will be an Antichrist, and there's a spirit of Antichrist and many Antichrists. I believe in the apocalypse. I believe in the second coming. I believe in the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. But the rapture is a more specific, I won't even say just Protestant notion, because it's a very particular kind of Protestant notion. And traditionally, most Protestants do not believe in the rapture. But as I understand it, in the 19th century, the notion of a rapture before the tribulation, where all the elect will just be sort of beamed up to heaven, that really came about in the 19th century, and it was popularized by John Nelson Darby, and it was popularized as a footnote in the Scofield Bible, which has gotten a lot of attention in commentary recently. And so that's a very modern idea. Now, an idea can be modern and true, but in this case, I'm not really persuaded by it. I hold to the traditional view held by Catholics and mainline Protestants and the Eastern Orthodox. Okay. Do we have time to get to any more? Mr. Davies doesn't want me to get to any more. I'm going to get to one more.
Hi, Michael. Huge fan of the show. Love watching you every day. I'm just wanting to know your thoughts on Halloween. I've been seeing a lot of Christians lately saying that they don't celebrate it because of the origins of Halloween and that it's Satan worship and things like that. It's personally one of my favorite holidays, and so I just wanted to get your thoughts on the holiday.
No, Halloween's great. It can be great. It can be bad too, but Halloween's great. It comes out of Christianity really, because it's the night before All Saints Day. So it's great. It's perfectly fine. But there's a big but to this. I think you should take your kids trick or treating, and it's lovely. But I would not go in for all the occult stuff, because there is weird occult stuff on Halloween. People sometimes dress like demons or witches or stuff. I wouldn't do that. I would have a little more wholesome costume. On the secular side, dress your kid up like he's Aaron Judge or something. And if you want to have a little more religious appeal, dress your kid up like a saint or, I don't know, biblical figure, so it's kind of fun. I wouldn't go in for don't dress up like the devil or anything. Don't do that on a Tuesday either. Don't do devil stuff. Generally, was good advice. But in terms of dressing up and having fun and going out and eating candy, it's good. It's good, and it actually has a religious foundation. Okay, no membrum segmentum today. I'm sorry to say I'm still in Central Europe, but I'm coming back. I will be back, and we will have the membrum segmentum again. Avec le crème de la crème. Wonderful to be with you as always. I will see you on Monday in Nashville. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show.
Matt, say something that'll get us canceled.
If you really want me to.
Friendly Fire is back.
Should we ever do this again?
No.
No safe zones.
Do not unify around your crazies.
I don't want your olive branch. Screw you.
It's absolutely despicable.
Nothing off limits.
You will get to sound off on whether or not black people are disabled, as the Supreme Court reliably informed me.
Huge announcements.
Brand new, massive, incredible series, The Pendragon Cycle.
Ambitious and big and beautiful.
And
this is the thing that sets us apart.
More revelations on the way.
I just want to make one more point here, and then you can say whatever you want.
I'm not going to play that game with you.
What makes you a conservative?
No, I don't think that's right.
Well,
I mean, hold on.
Let's
just take.
I just want to say I agree with that.
I totally disagree with it, I have to say that.
Friendly Fire, October 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern.
The friendly fire should stop across the board. And
you mean the show, not just the
I think that the show.